This is Richard Pitino, head men's basketball coach of the New Mexico Lobos. This is episode 63 of the Talking Grammar podcast.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Jeff Grammer with the Albuquerque Journal, and you are listening to what is now actually episode 64 of the Talking Grammar podcast. We decided to split up a rather lengthy conversation we had recently with UNM Lobo head basketball coach Richard Pitino, which was originally slated to be just episode 63. We split it up after the fact into two episodes, so this is episode 64, the second half of that conversation that we had with Richard Pitino. And while episode 1 last week kind of went over his offseason, went over last year's team, kind of did everything that built up towards what you guys can now expect from this coming season. We now are about to, in the resumption of this conversation with Richard Pitino, go over every player on the roster, what fans can expect. At the end, we actually have some reader questions that I solicited on Twitter. And again, if you have questions, if you have feedback for this show or any show, send it my way. On Twitter at Jeff Grammer. You can email me, Grammer at abqjournal.com, and keep giving me show feedback, story ideas, show ideas. And for this one, we are going to go from the walk-ons to the bench players to the expected, or to the 4 Division I transfers that the team inherited. And then we're also going to finish up with Jalen House, Jamal Mashburn Jr. What can Coach say about them? Are we going to get more of the same from the 2-star all-conference guards, or is there something different that fans can expect this coming season? So a lot of really good content. I am appreciative of Richard Pitino for being gracious with his time and going player by player over his entire roster. I do hope you enjoyed this episode. This is coming out every Tuesday. Next week, I'm hoping to have a Lobo player sit here and join us, and we're going to be doing this every single Tuesday as part of the Albuquerque Journal Podcast Network. Talking Grammar on Tuesdays. We've got another one I want to mention really quickly, Midweek Blitz. It's a high school football show that's coming out every Wednesday. I appreciate you guys for joining us and being a part of all this. For now, hope you guys enjoy the resumption of our conversation with UNM Lobo men's basketball coach, Richard Pitino.
The best selection of used cars is at GarciaCars.com.
I will start, since they're locals. Normally a whole lot of time isn't usually devoted to walk-ons, but you got 2 local walk-ons on this team. Shane Dumas Sanchez from Del Norte High School. He's a player that, people that have watched high school basketball around here thought could have gone on and played as a true freshman, could have played at a college level somewhere, maybe not been an instant impact guy at a program this high or this level as a true freshman, but he is a guy that a lot of people expected to go get a scholarship and play somewhere. I'm curious what you think about Shane Dumas Sanchez's decision to come here and why he did it, and how he might benefit from who he's playing behind and with. But then the other walk-on, obviously the more recently announced one, former El Dorado player, Daraji Adbayosi. Am I getting that right?
No, I just call him Daraji. I don't know.
Former El Dorado Eagle, has some Division I experience. You don't get a whole lot of Division I transfers who you can make as or convert, or I guess add as a walk-on is how I should say that. Talk a little bit about your 2 walk-ons who do have local ties.
Yeah, for one, if you're local and you're good enough to help our program, whether it's a walk-on or a scholarship athlete, we certainly are going to recruit you. I think with Shane, he's from here. He could probably play D2 somewhere, maybe D3. But I told him, you can come with us, go against some of the best guards in the country. It's going to get you better. You love the game. He loves the game. So the more kids you can get in your locker room that have a pride level of putting on that Lobo jersey and that other players see it, that's huge.
If a guy like Shane's looking at his freshman year as a how can I become a more impactful player in 2 or 3 years, I mean, what better situation than the guards you guys have on your roster to have to go against in practice every day?
Yeah, and again, you go back to the value of an education. If he does decide to stay here, he can get a New Mexico education. He's from here, which obviously that always helps in the community. But also from a basketball standpoint, great. You're going to go learn against older guards. I don't treat walk-ons differently than scholarship guys. They participate in every practice. They travel. They participate in every lift, individual instruction. So he's going to get better. So very happy to have added him. Daraje's been great as well. He was out for a little bit with a little injury, but he started to practice, and phenomenal athlete. To get a walk-on with his size and athleticism is rare, which I love. I think ideally, if you can get a guard and a big walk-on each year, that's perfect. But I like them both. They're great kids. They're going to make our program better, and both from here, which is terrific.
I'm not trying to burst any bubbles, but if both of them end up on the court in meaningful minutes this year, probably not a great sign, though, right? You're going to go pretty deep on that depth chart if your walk-ons are getting minutes.
Or it's really good.
Or it's really good because they're
playing very well.
That's true.
I think both
That's
guys, I've kind of explained to them what the situation is. And as I said, I mean, if they do, they're a part of the team for sure. Not everybody can play. One of the best exercises coaches can do is ask all the players how many minutes you want to play. And then you add up all the minutes. And
you've done that, haven't you?
Oh, every year I do it. I'll do it here soon. And what I always do is I bring them in and I say, okay, give me your starting lineup. It's almost always different. It almost always includes them. And then I say, how many minutes you want to play? How many points you want to average? And I say, well, okay, we'd probably average 250 points per game. We don't have the amount. So I think they understand it. Really, the families don't understand it.
Yeah.
And I just went to a sixth grade volleyball parents meeting the other day, and I just laugh at these coaches because they're saying it in a nice way, but basically telling these parents, don't ruin my experience. This isn't my full-time job. I'm not getting paid money. I'm just doing it because I love coaching, but we all deal with it.
On the other hand, it is your full-time job, so everybody can yell at you all they want.
Yeah, and I can ignore them easily
and get annoyed by the local media, the reporters.
No, I mean it comes with the deal. It's either they care and they're crazy, or they don't care. I'd rather they care.
Let's move on to the freshmen. You got two really good ones. We talked a little bit earlier about how you can't wait on freshmen to develop anymore, but you obviously have to have them in the recruiting mix if you want. The ideal situation is to hit on some freshmen down the road. If you hit on them their freshman year, that's great, but you got to mix the transfers and the D1 transfers with freshmen. The two you got this year, True Washington and Jaden Toppin, but he does go by JT. Have you ever heard anybody call him Jaden, or does he ever call himself Jaden?
JT.
Yeah, so Lobo fans, it is JT Toppin and True Washington. These are two freshmen that, again, I look at the rest of your roster we're going to go through, and it's going to be hard for freshmen to break through on this roster. It's also, at the same time, I've seen both of them play enough now that even in my uneducated eyes, I don't know how these two freshmen won't get on the court. These guys are, you kind of hit with two pretty good freshmen here.
Yeah, I made the comment today. Somebody got mad at me, and I said it's one of the best recruiting classes in the history of the program, and that is per the rankings.
Yeah.
Now, do I think they'll be the best players in Lobo basketball history? No, I'm not saying that, but there's not been many 4-star recruits, top 100 kids that have signed with Lobos. I'm sure there's been a handful of them.
Yep.
Does that mean they're going to be all conference guys, NBA players? No, it doesn't. But I think with those two guys, we're all still trying to figure it out. I think adding 1 or 2 a year would be great. But the problem is, I think everybody's okay freshman year to not play a lot. But sophomore year, they need to feel
they better see where they're going.
They better see a direction and see a place in this program for them, or they're going to leave. I thought last year was perfect. Donovan Dent played 25 minutes a game. I don't know what he played. Had a good year. I think he's going to be a terrific player. Braden and Q redshirted, so obviously they weren't going to play. Now we got to see where they're at, and I'm sure if they don't like the direction of it, who knows? I hope they stick it out. I love them all. True. JT's been very impressive. I think we all know what we got with True. JT, big guys, you just never, ever know what you're going to get. But he has been extremely impressive. I think they're both going to be terrific players. In the old days, I think, oh, my goodness, we got these 4-year guys. Yeah. You just never, ever know. So hopefully this year we can fulfill kind of what their needs are. They can help the team, and we continue to grow with the program.
You mentioned the two guys last year that were freshmen last year and didn't get a lot of minutes. I know Braden at least played some before his thumb injury, but basically Quentin Webb and Braden Applehans, and I'm going to throw Sebastian Forsling into this grouping to ask you for comment on. Those three guys are returning players, but basically we're returning bench guys or redshirt. What do you expect out of those three in any order you want?
Yeah, so I looked at when KJ left, I really liked KJ, but I didn't love how small we were.
Yeah.
And, when KJ and I spoke and he left, I said, well, okay, we need somebody bigger to replace him. And Braden, I think, could be that guy. Now, Braden, the key to Braden is his body getting stronger, and he's put on weight for sure. Braden can really, really shoot. He is, 6'7".
You guys have him listed at 6'7", 195.
Yeah. So I think the next 2 months, if he can kind of solidify that body, and he's never going to be, that's not going to be his body type by any means, but to where, he can physically play. I like his game a lot. High basketball IQ, really shoots it, very, very skilled. So he's impressed me. He's had a really good summer and fall. Quentin Webb obviously didn't play at all. We made the decision to redshirt him. I love Quentin.
He didn't turn 18 until I want to say like December or something like that. I think it was. He was a young freshman too, not just a freshman, but you get prep school guys that come in as 19-year-old freshmen sometime. He came in as a 17-year-old freshman.
Yeah. And he's got so much upside. Now, will he stay patient? Will he continue to believe? I think he will. He's that type of kid. He's got all substance as a human being. I mean, he is just phenomenal. Great athlete, probably more of a 4.3 than a 3.4. Working his butt off. His body looks amazing. So it'll be fun to see kind of where they find their role, those two guys. And then obviously Sebastian. Sebastian he was thrown into the fire freshman year, started a bunch of games. I'm not sure he was ready for that. We were necessarily ready for that, but plays so hard. I want to see him make a jump now. You know what I mean? I think he wants that as well. It's a matter of him getting in the best shape of his life. Last summer was clunky for him. He went overseas, then he got hurt.
It kind of kept happening every 2, 3, 4 weeks. Seemed like something
sick.
new.
So for him, it's how do you now play like that veteran junior? But I think he's a great member of our program, and he's he's got a high basketball IQ. Let's see if we can put that to work within our offense.
He's a guy, obviously, as you know, the fans are certainly rooting for. He became a fan favorite from day one, even before he was playing that freshman year, because of how he ran. He was the lead cheerleader on the bench, basically, and fans eat that kind of stuff up. They love
it's not an act.
That's
that's the way he is, and it's special to see.
You had mentioned the next guy I want to go talk about. You'd mentioned him earlier because in this transfer portal world, even with you kind of acknowledging you're okay with the one-time transfer, a guy like Donovan Dent came in last year. Mr. California came from a top program in the country. Kind of any questions people had about him probably were answered last year. Now, he probably didn't blow up as some people might have thought he would blow up, but he showed what he can become, and that was what you guys had hoped. I would think he showed he can be a pretty good Division I guard. He had every opportunity probably to leave this offseason and go to a program. Instead, he stayed knowing that Jalen House and Jamal Mashburn Jr. are still on this roster, and his minutes are going to be affected. I am going to bring up a tweet that just today, John Rothstein, everyone's favorite college basketball Twitter account, besides my own, of course.
He is better than you, yeah.
Yeah, New York guy, right? Or Boston guy?
He's a New York guy.
Yeah, he's not a Boston guy like you. Under the radar breakout guy, New Mexico's Donovan Dent. So John Rothstein's on board with pointing out that he thinks Donovan Dent's about to break out. The obvious thing I would say to John's tweet is a lot of Lobo fans and myself in the media that saw him play last year, yeah, he looks like a guy that could break out, but he does still have those two guys in front of him. What role do you see Donovan Dent having this year? Can he break out with those other two guys still on the roster? And what was his expectation coming into this year? Were promises made, hey, Donovan, stick around and you're going to get a lot more minutes? Anything like that?
Never had a conversation about it. Not once. I'm not a big promise guy. I'm a tell you where I think you'll fit in. And what I always tell these guys, make me play you. Make me figure it out. Make me, when you're off the court, say, we got to get him back in the game. And maybe we got to go 3 guards. Maybe we got to put him somewhere. I don't know. I'll figure it out. I'll figure out a way to play the best players. So never had a conversation with Donovan about it. That's what I hate about the transfer stuff is not that you're wrong in saying it, because it's the fact that they're being asked this every single, off season. You could leave. Are you coming back? And
not really just being asked by people that are curious, being told by people who think they know better than
no doubt
than the kid, the coach, the family.
No doubt. And it's just part of the deal. I remember last year, I think you asked Mash, are you coming back? I'm like, where are you going? There's nowhere, you know what I mean? But it's everybody's dealing with it, and they're hearing it all the time. Donovan and I've told Donovan from day one, I think you are the future of this program. I think it probably shook him a little bit when Wyoming was guarding him the way that they guarded him last year.
Yeah.
And I think that was a light bulb moment for him of, all right, nobody can guard me like that. And you can certainly.
And it was for people that don't remember how Wyoming guarded him, like, it's maybe a little disrespectful. Like they didn't respect his ability to shoot.
Yeah, I mean they dared him, and I think maturity wise, as you get older, more confident, like it's not going to affect him as much anymore. He's not a great shooter, but he's not a bad shooter, and he'll get better. Donovan wins us the St. Mary's game, and that was one of the best wins of the season. He had moments defensively, underrated, blocking shots, long. Now it's. I told him this the other day. I'm like, it's up to you, man. Like, are you going to make me play 3 guards? Are you going to make me play Jalen less or whatever? Like, I'd love to see it happen. Yeah. But it's on him, and I think he's ready for it. Another terrific kid.
He, along with Braden and Quentin, were the 3 freshmen that I had fun with writing about, and I think fans liked when they heard about it. But those 3 freshmen came into their first college experience and lived with that 5th-year senior, Morris Udeze, and the 4 of them were roommates, and they had a 24-year-old, 24-year-old Morris Udeze kind of watching after them a little bit, which is a cool dynamic. It wasn't necessarily intentional, if I remember correctly, but ended up being kind of a pretty cool thing that if you can pair a veteran guy and some freshmen, that ended up working out pretty well, I would think. Yeah,
you don't always hit on it. I mean, you try to figure it out, and it doesn't always work, but that one certainly worked.
Uncle Mo, as they called him. Quentin was who told me that. Quentin's the guy who told me, we call him Uncle Mo at home. And Uncle Mo was in charge of the remote. So the newcomers in this transfer portal era, again, you guys reloaded because of the transfer portal. So these 4 guys that I'm going to mention now, and we will go kind of one by one on them, are 4 Division I players played. They didn't just play. It wasn't like they weren't getting minutes somewhere. Like, these guys all were big time contributors and starters at their previous stop. I want to start with Nelly Jr. Joseph. He's not Morris Udeze, but he is going to be what I would guess, certainly in the mix to be the starting 5 on this year's roster. Tell me a little something about Nelly Jr. Joseph. Wherever he's coming from, I don't think he got coached up very well.
Did you know my dad is Rick Pitino?
Your dad's Rick Pitino, the coach.
Nelly is. I think I think we have to realize how good Morris was.
Right. Different roles too, though.
Yeah, Morris was. I don't want to say unstoppable in the post, but if we would have finished, obviously we didn't, but if we had won the league or finished top 2 or 3, you could have made a case that Morris could have been Player of the Year. Yep. That's how good of a year he had. It's always different with guards. It's almost like the NBA. They're more marketable, et cetera. They all get more attention. Morris had a terrific year. We're hoping Nelly, obviously, we had envisioned maybe moving Josiah to the 5. I thought that probably would have been more fitting. He has ball skills to play the 4, but just the shooting part of it. Well, now Nelly is going to have to be the elder statesman. Because Sebastian, although he's older now, hasn't played a lot. Right. JT's young. We need Nelly to be that physical. I mean, he's really, really strong. Really strong. He's probably a better. Morris is not a great shot blocker. Morris's idea of defense was just not to foul. That's what I used to tell him. Like, you didn't foul, that's something.
You can't play if you're in foul trouble. Yeah. And he learned that, I think, in game 1, he got foul trouble real quick and not much after that.
And Mo was notorious for being in foul trouble at Wichita. That was Mo's problem, was Mo didn't play a lot because he was always in foul trouble. Nelly is, obviously I've watched him play a lot because I watched as many Iona games as I could. He's a grown man. He's a guy who can play against a San Diego State who has 10 of them, and can battle physically with them.
Nelly Jr. Joseph, and look, I mean, I know I won't ask you to comment specifically on this part of it, but I know San Diego State did recruit him. He is exactly what San Diego State seemed to bring in the past decade, 12, 15 years. Nelly Jr. Joseph is the kind of player that San Diego State recruited for the past 15 years.
Yeah, and I've got so much respect for San Diego State because they've got continuity, and that's the key for us, is that we have an identity of what we recruit. And I'm sure Nelly saw what Morris's experience was and said, you know what, I like that. And I'm sure all those San Diego State guys see that. So we expect, an immediate impact with him. Will he be as good down low as Morris? I don't know. We'll see. Free throw shooting is something with Nelly that's got to be a little bit better than what it's been. But we certainly feel like we added a good one and another great kid.
Mustafa Mzil played for his home country in the World University Games this summer. You guys had, I think, 3 guys leave the country, right? Nelly, Mustafa, and Sebastian all play for kind of their home countries in some capacity. Let's go to Mustafa Mzil, the Dayton transfer. What can you tell us about Mustafa's game?
Well, he obviously didn't lift a lot of weights because he dropped a 60-pound dumbbell on his foot the other day and missed 3 practices. But he's back and he's good, and we, knock on wood, nothing happened.
Everyone's going to be scared by you even saying he's back and good.
Oh, yeah. No, he's good. He's good. But I told Matt Flores, our strength coach, I'm like, they're not allowed to get hurt in the weight room. I like him a lot. He's my typical 4'3". He's got size. He's probably 6'9". Can shoot, skilled. He could play the 3. Do I envision that? Probably not. But very, very skilled, and another older guy, which is great.
So I'll get to know him more as the season goes on. My fear is not the right word, but my critique of him would be, is he going to be a guy that just resides at the 3-point line? Is he going to be willing to mix it up a little bit inside? You guys may go 4 out. You guys may go small and all that kind of stuff. But if you're playing the 4, you better get inside some. You better rebound some. Is he a guy that has shown that?
Well, I think I look back at SMU, and Josiah and Morris, the way they were playing together was a beautiful thing to see. I talked to Rob Lanier, who's a good friend of mine, who's the head coach there. We worked together, and I asked him, we were talking scheduling about a team in their league, and I said, are they like us? And he goes, well, when we played you, I thought you were going to win the national championship. So those 2 bigs were working together and running and rebounding and great. Where Mustafa's just a different type of player. His rebounding, certainly, you're losing Josiah, who was I mean, he was like Dennis Rodman on the glass, the way he'd go after the ball. And
Lobo fans do need to understand, Mo and Josiah going out the door, you may replace them and you guys may just be fine, but they're going to be different.
Yeah,
they're not. Mo and Josiah left. You didn't replace them with replicas.
No, and the way that we played offensively last year, although we led the conference in points, I didn't love a lot of it. I like more spacing, a little bit more ball movement, which we know we got to get better at. I do think more shooting. It's amazing. We average 81 points per game with the lack of threes that we shot and made. But that's personnel driven. Josiah was not a 3-point shooter. Morris was not a 3-point shooter. And Javante wasn't finding a lot of them.
Certainly not in the first half of the year.
No. Yeah. So offensively different, but our offense, although at times it may frustrate you, our offense was plenty good enough. The defense is what needs to substantially get better. And so hopefully these older guys will bring that to the table.
Isaac Michelle is a guy, Texas A&M Corpus Christi, that you look at what he did there, and I know it was a smaller league. I get that. But the rebounding numbers, he averaged a double-double, I believe. He's a guy that, you just look at his numbers, I don't know how he stays off the court either. You're going to have too many guys to start. You can only start 5 at a time. But tell me a little something about how Isaac got here and what you've seen since he's been here.
Yeah, he's another just all substance as a human being. I mean, somebody you'll love to get to know and speak to. Always a smile on his face. I get in at about 7:45 every day, and he's in the gym. And I say hello to him. He's shooting around. Then he comes in and says good morning to me. I'm always like, oh, God, why is he coming to my office?
Yeah, player comes to the coach's office.
It's like, well, you're already upset about something. Just says good morning. Big smile.
He comes into your office to make sure there's a face-to-face kind of good morning.
Every morning. And every morning, see, my office is designed, I can hear who's opening the door, and I'm like, oh, God, who is this? Is it Eddie? Who is it? Who's coming in my office? And it's always him. Right after the workout, just says good morning, doesn't want anything, which I love. It's awesome. Very good mover, very good, quick to the ball. Obviously, the rebounding number is great. Shooting has got to improve. He's got to get more comfortable there. But just relentless with his attack, and another guy. Just the good part about our old guys is they all play old, and that's what this team needs. They just got they're very, very experienced with the way that they play.
Jamal Baker Jr., a guy that
speaking of old,
speaking of old, that's a good transition to Jamal Baker Jr., who's I want to say is it 7th year in college basketball. A lot of circumstances there that led to that. Obviously, he's a guy that's played at Arizona, played at Kentucky, played at Fresno State, is where a lot of Mountain West fans and New Mexico fans may remember most recently. He's a guy that just seen a couple summer workouts with you guys. I saw him play at Fresno State. I saw him in person. I did all that. I didn't watch as much film as you, obviously, but like when he got here and I saw him on the court, he looked different to me. He looks like a guy that not only can play that three, and I had some questions. If you're going to Jamal Baker Jr. or you guys, and he's playing the three, you guys are still going to be playing small. No, he looks a lot bigger than I guess I realized. He's a guy that impressed me in just a couple of really short glimpses. He's also a guy that I think, and I hope to have on this show, on this podcast soon. He's a great. He has a good story to tell, and he tells it well, I think.
Yeah, he's similar to Morris in a lot of ways, personality-wise. Just veteran. You love being around him. I could legitimately play him at 4 different positions, and he would not miss a beat. I have played him. We've only practiced 5 times, but I have played him at the 1, 2, 3. I've not played him at the 4 yet, but I'm envisioning maybe trying it, see what it looks like. Just knows how to play. We just play so different offensively than Fresno State, where I wasn't sure what I was going to get either. Elite passer. I mean, phenomenal passer. Maybe the best passer on the team. Donovan's a terrific passer as well. The key to him is just staying healthy.
Yeah.
When he's healthy, and last year he was, he's going to make an impact. So I am. He's been. You hate to say one guy, but he's been impressive so far, and he's lost a lot of weight. But there's just there's a level of maturity to him that you love to see.
These last 2 guys I'll lump in together. While they are the stars of the team and the people everybody looks at and will lead off like national articles about this Lobo basketball team, I'll lump them together because here people already know their story. Jalen House, Jamal Mashburn Jr. are the 2 guards that have kind of led this rebuild for you guys, and I'm curious how their offseason has been, and should we expect something different? Is it okay to say we expect more of the same out of them? I think people always get caught up in what will they do differently. Well, they were pretty good as they were. Yeah. So are they going to be different, or are they going to be more the same?
Well, it's funny. So I pulled this up so I don't forget it, but Brad Stevens said freshmen want to play, sophomores want to start, juniors want to score, seniors need to win. And Jalen House and Mash both had phenomenal years. If we were a little bit higher, even if we were top 3, you could have probably argued both. Player of the year in the league was who? I don't even remember who it was. It was
the media poll had Tyson Degenhart, and the coaches poll had I want to say someone from San Diego State.
Matt Bradley.
Must have been Matt Bradley, right?
So you could argue that both of them would have been players of the year. We don't have the year that we have without them. What I told both of them is, I said, listen, I don't know if you're pros, but I want you in the conversation at the end of the year. Now, Mash could come back for another year. He doesn't approach living life like that. He's a one-day-at-a-time guy. But I want both of them to get their shot. It's hard to make the NBA. In order to do that, they have to play a certain way. And I'm not sure the way that they always play is necessarily that way. I think Mash knows he's got to get his assists up. Jalen knows he's got to be more of a quarterback. But at the end of the day, those guys are elite scorers. They are, you got to let them go. But I just want their game to mature a little bit. Not a lot, because they're 2 of the better guards in the country. But my hope is we both have we have a phenomenal year, and they both are in that conversation to get a chance at the next level.
Rothstein did earlier this offseason kind of have his Mountain West breakdown, and he picked Jamal Mashburn Jr. as his predicted Mountain West Player of the Year. As you noted, both of them could be in the mix, and it's if they're both in the mix, you guys are going to be pretty good again, especially with these new guys. Embarrassing that I forgot this, but Omari Moore was.
I was going to say, I knew we were both wrong.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I shouldn't have been wrong.
Job,
I expected from you, but all right, there you go. There is the rundown of the Lobo basketball roster. I don't think I left anybody off there. I think we went through it all, and I appreciate you for doing that. I know it's hopefully you don't have to do that a whole lot. Hopefully people listen to this. But all of that is why the expectations this year are pretty high. You come here because the fans care. The fans aren't the only ones that are expecting you guys to be pretty good this year. With what San Diego State did, I expect them, and they've probably earned it too based on history and a pretty good roster still. They'll probably be the preseason number 1. But I expect you guys in Boise State to be in the 2-3. I would say you guys would be 2, Boise State 3. But you guys in Boise State both have probably earned, in my mind, based on roster and what they've done historically, the 2-3 spots. And that said, you guys are good enough, in my estimation, to be in contention for a Mountain West title this year. What do you think of when you say that? Obviously, you came here to win titles. You say you want to be in a league that you can win and a school that can win the league it's in. This is the year that you guys should be in that mix, that top 3 mix. Is that something in a league that has sent 4 teams of the NCAA tournament the past year? So is that something that you guys are ready to embrace?
Well, my hope is now, and I kind of said this before, like now that we got the train on the tracks, let's go compete for championships. Very, very hard to win them. I'm not saying it's easy at all, especially in our league, which from a basketball perspective, nobody knows what we are. Are we a high major? Are we mid-major? Like, I don't think we're a mid-major, but it's a terrific league. You got to win at home. We lost 3 at home last year, 2 obviously at the buzzer. You got to go steal some on the road. I thought we did that. We lost some close games. We at Nevada, certainly those things. But the beauty of our locker room now, there's a lot of guys, plus the guys we brought in who have played on the road and they understand what it takes to win. But it is why I came here. Minnesota, although I loved it, hasn't won a lot of Big Ten titles. They won one, I think, in 1997 with Clem Haskins that was vacated. And then I think the last one before that was 1982. I believe New Mexico is second in titles since the Mountain West was created. Yep. And I want to be in that conversation. I feel like our fans deserve it. I feel like the pit deserves it. I feel this community deserves it. And, we weren't ready for that in year 1. I mean, that was such a rebuild. But now let's go after it with a great level of humility and an understanding that it is hard to do. And nobody's done it better, obviously, than San Diego State. But, it's why I sacrificed to come down here. And I've loved it. I love living here, but I didn't know much about it. But I want to go for it. And hopefully our guys feel the same way.
Guarantee? Is that a guaranteed Mountain West title?
It's not a guarantee.
Okay.
No, nope.
We're going to put a bow on things right here. We're going to wrap this up again. I do want to thank you for your time for doing this relaunch of the podcast and spending so much time putting up with me, basically, because I know how hard that is for you. I did ask some readers on Twitter. I think you're on Twitter, right?
I am on Twitter. Do a little pause.
Yeah.
I'm ready to shut it down, but I'm not going to shut it down just yet.
I know how much you love social media.
I hate social media. I think social media is the cause of so many problems in our world. I don't know why we all need to band together and stop doing it. But it won't stop unless we all agree. We got to get the whole country together.
Maybe on Twitter we can ask how many people want to join in on stopping it. And social media would be a good way to get out to spread the message.
Exactly.
All right, I'm going to ask a couple reader questions, then we're going to wrap this up. I'm going to start with one that probably leads you to that opinion of social media. I asked fans, what do you want me to ask Pitino in this podcast? Yes is how he starts.
That's good.
Yeah. Yes. Has he learned how to get defense in basketball yet? Have you learned how to get defense in basketball yet?
I've learned how to get defense in basketball, yeah. Absolutely.
So will there be defense in Lobo basketball this year?
I hope so. I do think it's always fun to talk about offense, but defense is for sure where we got to show great improvement. And it starts with me. Starts with our staff, starts with the players having a commitment to it. So although as poorly worded as that tweet was grammatically, it's that grammar was just as bad as our defense was last year. So I think both need to improve.
It's a fantastic transition to Lobo Lane from Zach Lane here. Will you talk about grammar, and would getting a sponsorship from Grammarly work out? I suppose that's not really so much for you, but we did. There you go, Zach. We did talk about grammar right there.
We did, yes.
505 Sports Venture Foundation, a big part of what's going on, obviously. They actually, I imagine this has something to do, because I looked up where these towns are, had something to do with Kurt Roth, but Weehawken or Canarsie style of mambo. Does that mean anything to you?
No.
Yeah, I had to look it up. There's a
Weehawken, is that New York?
There's a place in Brooklyn.
I know Weehawken, yeah.
So anyway.
That's obviously Kurt Roth.
I'm guessing that's Kurt Roth. Very few people listening, well, I shouldn't say very few, but some people listening might know what we're talking about there, but we'll move on. We will say 3 of these are food related, so I'm going to kind of lump these into one, although one will stand alone. How does Coach make his perfect PB&J? Are you a peanut butter and jelly guy? Do you do anything special with your...
I eat peanut butter and jelly?
Yeah.
No, I'm an adult, so I stopped eating peanut butter and jelly about 25 years ago. But I make them for my kids.
Do you do anything special? You cut them in triangles? Do you cut off crust?
No, I cut them in half because that was a big deal with my daughter, Zoe.
Okay.
I started doing triangle, and she freaked out on me. I keep the crust on it. But other than that, nothing. I don't toast it. Yeah. We don't toast peanut butter and jelly.
You don't run the show at your house, do you? The kids do.
Oh, for sure. There is zero discipline. When I'm in charge, there's no discipline.
Nice.
Yeah, it's great.
I will say I'm a little uncomfortable with Jack. Your son, 8, still 8? Is he?
Jack's
or is he
9.
Is he 9 now?
Jack's 9.
8 when he did the NCAA tournament bracket with me and beat me.
Yeah, and beat you. Yes.
I'm a little uncomfortable with how comfortable he seems to be with talking trash to me as an 8-year-old and now a 9-year-old.
He's not real. I think he's part of the YouTube generation, and I go to his games and he starts doing all and I blame Jalen House and I blame YouTube for the way that he behaves on the court. But yeah, that is part of the social media problem we're dealing with.
I think he gets a little bit of his disdain for me from you.
Yes, that's for sure.
All right, 2 more food questions real quick. It's time to get the real answer from Pitino. Red or green? And then the other one, kind of related since this is New Mexico, what's Coach Pitino's favorite restaurant in Albuquerque? Have you settled in on a red or green? Are you still going to do the coach speak with Christmas?
I'll go red. No, I like red better
Okay.
than green.
Do you have a favorite restaurant? Someone either is about to get a good plug?
Yes,
or...
I do. And I'm trying to say, do I want to say it or not? But I like Antiquity. I think Antiquity is phenomenal. Steve, who runs the show over there, great. I think, and this is like, I could go for hours on this conversation because I love restaurants and finding in the state. I think Indigo Crow would be 2 in Corrales. I think it's terrific. And then I would go Farm and Table 3. That would be my top 3.
Check you out. You did answer the question. Named all 3 of them. Mm-hmm. Who is his favorite local sports media personality, and why isn't it Jeff Grammer? And that is not mine.
Oh man, there's so many media members I like more than you. I like them all. No, honestly, I mean, you've all been great. Like, it's unique. Media is hard. It was very hard in Minnesota. Media was the problem, not the problem in Minnesota, but
just different challenges.
It's a pro sports town. So, and they have 2 papers. So there's a lot of kind of trying to rival each other a little bit. And the coverage is just, you're treated like a pro sports team, where I do feel, although I give you crap about it, I don't feel like we're ever really treated that way. And that doesn't mean don't hold us accountable by all means. But there was times where that was definitely challenging in Minnesota. So I think the media's all been great. I hope I'm good towards the media. I try to somewhat give you what you want without going too long. I'm not a big lengthy guy. I don't like the long press conferences and the long
hour-long podcasts.
It's brutal, but we'll do it for you.
Last one, and I guess this is so general. I could ask anybody at UNM this, but just thoughts on conference realignment and maybe what the best case scenario is. Has conference realignment entered into your role as a coach yet, and do you need to care about it yet, or do you just need to let the dominoes kind of see where they fall and then kind of go from there?
I think the biggest thing we want we want stability. I feel as though we don't know where the Pac-4 now, what that's all going to lead to. But what I hope is that when you look at the Mountain West, you see great stability in the situation. Football is driving everything, and it's hard to watch because we've seen so many people, higher ups, kind of lecture us about what it's all about. It's all about money, and I've always known that. I mean, it is a business, but it is inconceivable to me that Washington is going to go play at Rutgers. I don't know why we can't just have a football league, and then everybody else.
Football charters anyway, like when they're traveling.
And they're playing once a week.
And they play once a week. Yeah.
My heart breaks for these women's soccer who's not chartering, and I don't
twice a week and have to go across the country.
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't see how that's going to work. Football is totally different. It's once a week. Now they're playing some games on weekdays, but almost every football team is chartering. But again, I'm not trying to say like that I'm high and mighty. Like, this is a business, and money is always the most important thing in a business. And that money is going to go back to a lot of good things, as we all know. My hope for the Mountain West is that we stabilize ourselves as the West Coast option in recruiting. Yeah. I do think our travel is great. I love our travel. Nothing about it besides going to San Jose is really and San Jose is not even a pain. And I think that's great for everybody. So football drives it all. Money drives it all. So we'll see where it all goes. I don't worry about it as much as ADs and presidents do because I'm not in the conversation. Nobody's going to listen to me on it.
He's Coach Richard Pitino of the Lobo basketball team. I do appreciate your time on this, for putting up with me for longer than I think you have all offseason. I don't think you've responded to texts while you've been on family vacations that I didn't know about, and I would text you. So I do appreciate you responding to text, even though the tone isn't always something I approve of. But I appreciate you for coming on, and thanks for joining us and sharing all those thoughts with the listeners.
You got it. Thank you.
All right, well, look, I hope you guys enjoyed that conversation with Richard Pitino. It was a two-parter. Hope you enjoyed last week's first part of the show. Hope you enjoyed the resumption of it in this episode 64 of the Talking Grammar podcast. Appreciate Richard Pitino for joining us and giving us so much of his time on this podcast. The relaunch of the Talking Grammar podcast. We went from April until now September between episodes of this, but we are now a weekly show every Tuesday. Join us, subscribe, rate, all that stuff. We'll be right into your feed if you hit that subscribe on however you're listening, Spotify, SoundCloud, iTunes. If you're watching us on YouTube, subscribe. We will be in your feed before you even have to come looking for us on this podcast. It is a part of a larger kind of move at the Albuquerque Journal, a digital move. Probably long overdue digital move, but we're getting there, and this is part of it. The Albuquerque Journal Podcast Network, with a weekly Talking Grammar show, a weekly high school football show, some more products to come along those lines. And while I hope you enjoyed this specific episode and Richard Pitino joining us, I really hope you guys join along with giving us some feedback about future episodes as well. So the Talking Grammar podcast is back. I need your feedback at Jeff Grammer on Twitter, grammer@abqjournal.com on email, and for a little bit more on the vision and the move that the Albuquerque Journal is kind of undertaking right now, here's our editor, Patrick Etheridge.
Thanks for listening to the Albuquerque Journal Podcast Network. I'm Patrick Etheridge, executive editor of the Albuquerque Journal. Since 1880, the Journal has been New Mexico's most trusted news source and the largest daily newspaper in the state. But we're so much more than that. We're a family-owned news company committed to serving our customers across numerous platforms. Sure, we still have a daily newspaper. We've got a number of active social media accounts and a digital news site that's updated 24/7. Our commitment to Albuquerque and all of New Mexico is to bring the news to you. Our podcast network is one more way that we deliver the news to you every day. Whether you read, hear, or watch, we've got you covered. We hope you'll check back often, as we have a number of exciting new products rolling out in the near future. Until then, thanks again for listening. Have a great day, and remember, read, hear, watch.